So we're about to leave our mooring at Saltash Sailing Club, down underneath the Tamar bridges and out to sea.
Most things look like they're now working, having done rather a lot of repairs this winter. A bit dubious about the solar panels, but we'll see. Anyway.
And so whilst everyone else is ensconced in Foy at the Triangle, awaiting to go and dine at Royal Foy, Alison is busy preparing pre-dinner nibbles. What are we having for pre-dinner nibbles, please, Al?
The starter is sautéed potatoes with some onion and tuna.
And it's a gorgeous evening, and we're faffing around with a bit of wind that's not really behaving itself. And we're meant to be on wind steering, but that's not really behaving itself. So we're plonking down towards the Lizard. Okay, and it's Sunday night, about 9:30, and we're off Lizard and about to escape west. Got a tide with us, doing a steady 7 knots in 8 or 9, and sogging 10. Not very much wind, so we've had the engines on. This is the Irish Sea in a different, or possibly the Bristol Channel even, in a different light to how we've seen it before. There is a large pod of dolphins, but they're refusing to come near the boat. They're off over on the left, and I guess that they must be feeding. And we're plodding along, avoiding the traffic, going up the Bristol Channel. Not much wind. And it's Bank Holiday Monday. Not quite sure where it's come from, but we're not complaining because we've got 12 or 14 knots from the southwest. So we're mooching along with a kite up, heading towards Ireland. The sun's out, still a little bit on the chilly side, hence Alison's dressed nearly for the Arctic, minus boots. But done a bit of motoring, but we've had the kite up since 12 o'clock, Al?
I started putting it at 12 o'clock.
So, and it's now 4 o'clock. It's a very flat, sunny, Celtic sea. And so our summer holiday continues. We're now sailing up from Dublin to Scotland. We don't know exactly where we're going to go because the weather forecasts are all over the place in terms of direction and speed. To say that it's cold is an understatement. As you can see, Alison's modelling the latest version of polyvolts. Give us a wave. We've got hundreds of layers of clothing on, and the really good news is that this is midday at the warmest part. So rock on tonight. So it's Friday morning, and Alison's brought us around the Mullican Tyre, which must be the Scottish equivalent of Rada Sen, because we must now properly be in Scotland. The weather's changed, the sun's come out, it's all pleasant. That's the island of Giga, and we're going to head over to the east coast of Jura and go into one of the anchorages that we're going to use in the race and go and scope it out. Sunny boat, motor sailing again, but sometimes it's probably better than having a headwind around the Mullican Tyre, so we'll probably take that as a plus. Over there in the distance is Jura with its distinctive paps.
Okay, well this is going up the side of Jura. We're just coming to the north end of Jura, and in front of us and off to the left is Corryvreckan and Whirlpool. We've decided not to go that way, but to carry on north through the Sound of Ling. Seems what everyone else is doing too. We expected about up to 14 knots of wind, and we've had up to 22 knots, and we've got 2 reefs in.
Sogging 12.
I think my hat's about to blow off. But yeah, this is the top end here, Jura. So getting to the north of Jura, be able to see down the Cove Reckon in a moment.
One of the differences on the Scottish Islands Peaks race is that you are allowed to row, and so Brendan is adding the addition of some rollocks to the back of our boat, so that we can then position the, what I'm sure will, hopefully we won't have to use, but will probably come to be known as torture sticks, and we will position the torture sticks and row. So this year we've come north to Scotland and on Bare Necessities, and one of the things that we're doing, as well as a lot of cruising, is the Scottish Islands Peaks race. The Scottish Islands Peaks race is a running sailing event that has been going for a number of years, and the race basically starts at Oban, which is here. You sail to Salem, which is there. The runners then go off in a dinghy and run up and down one of these big hills, that one, Benmore. Come back there, you then sail out of here and you're sailing to the island of Jura, to Craighouse. On the way you have the Sound of Ling, or the Gulf of Corryvreckan, or the Sound of Jura. So part of the art is trying to decide which of these nasty tidal gates you're going to take. So you get into Craighouse ultimately, and then the runners run to fearsome hills called the Paps of Jura. You then sail round the bottom of the Mull of Kintyre, which again is another tidal strait, onto the Isle of Arran. You park in Lamlash Harbour. The runners run up and down Goat Fell, which is there, and then we then sail into Troon Marina. And then when we finish, then we've got to bring the boat all the way back to Oban. On board we have Alison, who's busy cooking some tea for the hungry crew and runners at the moment, before she then gets put to the oars, because on this race, like some of the races that we do in Devon, unlike the Round Britain Island race, you can also row. Sailing with me is Brendan Seward, and we have two runners called Ray and Lorne, who we met for the first time yesterday, who seem very enthusiastic and committed people to run up and down hills. They seem to do an awful lot of that. The runners start at 12 o'clock and go for a run up and round the hill that we're looking at to come down to the sailing club, just to try and space the boats out. And then the start line is from sailing club underneath the ochre coloured building over to here, and then we sail out and round and basically turn left underneath the castle and head off to the Isle of Mull. Dazcat crews doing what they do best, which is eating.
It is really big dolphin. Okay, this is Dazcat Bare Necessities. We're just leaving Jura.
How can you leave?
After a run, coming out of the thing, and there is some big dolphins just taking us out of the bay.
There we go. Hello, and this is the Scottish Island Peaks race, and we've left Craighouse and Arran, and we're on our way to Arran, but we're rowing. The wind has suddenly disappeared, and we're going past a good place to have no wind. We're off the Mull of Kintyre, over there. Not very far away from it because we have to stay outside the shipping lanes, although there's a big cargo boat going to try and go between us and the Mull of Kintyre. And we've got Bruce there catching lots of crabs, rowing away. Okay, and here's Brendan, who is our expert rower.
I wouldn't say expert.
He seems to know how to use the oars.
It's a little easy. It was easier yesterday without any waves.
Yes, we rowed off Mull to get away from the shore when there was absolutely no wind when we picked the runners up.
How do you warm up for a 5-hour run after running 5 hours 2 days in a row at 3:30 in the morning on a Dazcat? Go for a nice row. So we've gone for monoholes have their symmetric poles, so we've rigged one of our own using a boat hook, a halyard and some other bits of string wedged against the gooseneck of the mast, holding the screecher out nicely, trying to keep things stable in the slightly bouncy sea out here.
And it's Tuesday and we're taking the boat back from Troon, having finished the Island Peaks race. Oh, is it? Oh, sorry, it's Monday still, not quite Tuesday, but it's sunset on Monday. We're going up along the side of Jura, a low battery, and it is freezing. So, oops, sails are doing something. So everyone's in their Arctic gear. Arctic, with everyone in their Arctic gear, and Bruce doing his island fling. Wait, if it wasn't so cold, it is quite a gorgeous evening. So this is Bare Necessities, a Dazcat, and we're on our cruising holiday up in the west coast of Scotland. We left Oban, sailed up the Sound of Mull, and are now on a mooring buoy in Killowen. Not the best of places, or the prettiest of places I'm sure, but we've set off. We're looking back at Mull and can see in the distance the high mountain that our runners ran up and down when we did the Scottish Islands Peaks race. We've got northerly winds, that's why we've come to the south shore of Ardnamurchan. So Bruce is now cooking tea, and he's really taking it to extremes in adapting his drill to be a food processor.
Gotta save the weight, you know.
So let's see how it works. I think he's making pesto at the moment, so I think we'll come back in a while to see how successful it's been. And of course our other crew member is Ellie, the bearded collie, who is sitting there watching Bruce very carefully, not wanting to miss out on any food that might be going spare. So we've set off from Killowen, and it's forecast to get windy, or more windy. We've got 20 knots today, but there are forecasts of 4-7. So we're going up Loch Soonart. Prepared for the wind, put a couple of reefs in, but at the moment actually things are pretty calm. Ellie's already been ashore in the dinghy, got a bit wet. Sitting there with the little toys on her bed. Quite at home, because obviously down below all very stable. So we're still sailing up Loch Soonart, which is becoming a bit narrower and is very beautiful. Tree-lined sides, as opposed to all the rocks that there seem to be everywhere else in Scotland. Smooth water, and wind that varies from 4 knots to, I think when we left Killowen, 22 knots, and we'll go quite easily through at least 90 degrees, depending on which headland you're going round. So we're in Sarlen on Loch Soonart, A nice little inlet which points north, so it's fine for the northerly winds. It's a gorgeous sunny day again. You wouldn't believe it's Scotland. So we're off on a trip today. We're going to go over to climb Bare Necessities. Ellie can climb easily on board, can't you, Ellie? Hey? You're a good girl, aren't you?
So we're still in Salem and we're just back from our Let's Try and Be Runners. Ha ha ha. All the gear and no idea, I believe, is the technical term. We left Salem, which is a little harbour, and legged it out along the road to Respel campsite, and then went up Ben Respel, and then back down, and then ran along the road. And that took us from 9:30 till 3:30, but did include compulsory rehydration at the pub for a pint of cold lager. And we're now back on the boat, and a picnic on the way as well. And so we're now back on the boat. Ellie, get off my tea. Back on the boat, and we're eating chocolate spread bagels, because that's obviously what you have to do to carb load. And all the smelly running stuff is out drying for the next time. Ha ha ha. When's the next time, Al?
I don't know. Give me a week and I might be able to walk again. Oh, Ellie returning from her evening walk. Very easy, just bring the dinghy into the back of the cat and she climbs up onto the steps on the transom. Don't you, Ellie, hey? Good girl. There we are. That's brilliant, isn't it? Good girl. Just tying the dinghy on the other hull so that it doesn't bump into the hull and wake us up tonight. So cruising with Ellie means lots of trips ashore, quite close to the shore here, so just using the oars, which we've been doing quite a lot. And with our new lighter weight dinghy and just the little 2.5 horsepower engine on the back, even I'm managing to lift the boat out of the water, and it's very easy to get the boat back onto the davits, so it's not been a problem at all. We've got the 5 horsepower engine on board, tied away in one of the big lockers. Should we be further away from the shore or bad weather? Getting the dinghy back on the davits is very easy too. We don't need a winch, we don't need any electronics, because it's light enough that we can just quite easily pull it up between the two of us. So every time we go sailing we always pull it up. We don't tend to sail with it dragging behind. So with the dinghy all up on its davits now, we're ready to go. So now we're headed west, out of Loch Sunart and around Ardnamurchan Point hopefully, so a bit further north. And we've got Ellie there on the front.
Sorry?
Going to do the anchor and surveying what's going on. Having a look at the weather.
Castle Tioran. Some absolutely stunning anchorages. The sailing in Scotland is interesting, as it goes from 8 knots to 25 knots in different directions on the same day, without necessarily having a warning, which means we've been doing proper cruisy things, which include sailing under jib only, and we quite often sail with more reefs in than we normally do, because it just makes for much easier sailing.
Definitely sail with more reefs in when we're cruising.
Well, we definitely sail with more reefs in when we're cruising, because Alison says so.
Because I don't want to sit there with my hands on the ropes all the time, and it gives us a chance to have cups of coffee and lunch and other such nice things.
100 years ago, when Alison was small, she used to come here on holiday, and there was no boring health and safety, and so the castle was wide open and you could go up some of the internal stair towers to look at the views. But obviously things have changed and small boys don't get put up chimneys anymore, fortunately for Bruce. Mind you, I'm too fat to go up chimneys these days.
Right, so it's playtime now. So we're now in Egg, or anchored just off Egg, having left west mainland this morning, and this is of course just a lunch stop, something you don't get when you're racing. Stopped in this little anchorage off a sandy beach so we could go and give Ellie a run and a play on the beach, and then sit here in the sun and have lunch. Part of the island's volcanic, and there's about 70 people live here, I think.
So we're just leaving Egg in the sunshine, heading back to the Cloud. Not quite sure why we're doing this, but we are. And you can sail Dazcats very conservatively. We haven't put any spinnakers up or anything. We're sailing at quite deep 150, and in 14 knots we're doing 6 knots white sails only. So 6 knots is really quite a respectable speed for cruising. At the moment, under the sun, it's warm and boots are off, and it's jolly pleasant.
Okay, so this is Kyle Rear, a narrow bit, 8 knots of tide between Skye and the mainland. Apparently, there's a ferry that's just going across in front of us. We haven't got much room to manoeuvre. We've got like 20 knots of wind behind us. Extremely gusty, and we've chosen 2 reefs in the jib. We've had up to 22 knots of wind, and we are doing something that's to us seems a bit tricky, but I suppose to those that live up here it's a daily occurrence. Ship's dog, of course. Up there helping Bruce. Okay, and we're now going through Kyle of Lockhouse, the bit where the bridge is over to Skye. Okay, so this was Canna. Unfortunately only a brief stop because the wind's about to change and we weren't on a mooring, and this would be open to the east. There's a boat that's already gone aground right by the pier where Cal might come in. We have admits to misjudging the tides this morning. It was a nice, lovely little place actually. Would have liked to stay much longer and go to see the birds and do some walking. Unfortunately though, lots of people like to come here and there isn't enough room. So 9 moorings, 18 yachts, and at least 3 or 4 left last night when they arrived and found no room. Good morning, Bruce. Morning. And a place to visit, you come by stealth at night and wait for people to leave, so you grab a mooring at like 9 in the morning. It's going to be my next approach to this place. We saw some gannets diving into the water and have slowed ourselves right down. We're sailing still, but only at 1.4 knots. Bruce has put the feathers out the back and he's fishing, and he's winding in the mackerel. There he is. Right, I think he's got some more on. We've got a ginormous one. I'll show you the fish in a minute. That was all of quarter of an hour's fishing, and the biggest one is huge, look. That's Bruce's hand next to it. Never caught a mackerel quite that big before. We threw some of the little ones back. So now I have to get the fridge on very cold.
4, 6, 8, 10.
So we're going downwind down the Sound Pull.